Well, I rounded out the Predator franchise with The Predator last night, and I have a few things I'd like to say about it. Now, this was one of my most anticipated films of the year just because I like the franchise so much. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, it is now on the short list of the most disappointing movies of 2018 for me. And I'm going to try to keep this review structured a little bit, but it's going to come off like a rant probably. And no restraint on spoilers, I'm sorry, but I can't get into the details of how I was disappointed without getting into the actual plot and specific things in it. So, firstly, let me just get out of the way the things I liked about the movie. It's a pretty short list, so here we go. I really like the design of the Predator. The classic Predator, not the big dumb Hulk Predator that is the antagonist of the movie. The classic one that's in the movie briefly is awesome looking. It's very well articulated facial movements and just a cool costume. And for the first time in the franchise, they actually look the part of the cunning, elusive Predator. They always tell you in the old movies, but in the first and second and third movie, all the Predators always look kind of bulky, kind of heavy, kind of lumbering to me. In this movie, the classic Predator moves and moves fast, and it looks great. Definitely a plus. Next was just a brief moment in which you see the alien tail-tipped spear from AVP. I loved that because I really love AVP, and I'll be talking about that in a not-so-guilty pleasure review sometime in the future. But I kind of love that movie, and the fact that a main franchise movie actually acknowledged that movie even existed, I thought was pretty cool. The only other thing I liked in the movie was only a temporary like, because it evolved into my hatred for it later. The first 30 minutes, it's very clear this is going to be the black sheep of the Predator franchise. It does not follow the formula. I know I mentioned in my past reviews of the other movies, it's essentially the same premise in different settings, hunting different types of characters. In the first 30 minutes of this movie, it establishes that it's not going to follow the previous three movies' formula at all. And I was kind of on the fence, and then it won me over, and it was like, it's super funny also, which is a departure from the other three, definitely. It's literally a comedy, this movie. And for the first 30 minutes, I was briefly against it, and then I kind of fell into it. I was like, all right, fine, this is going to be different, I can accept it. And then that very quickly shifted into, this sucks. Yeah, I'm just going to go right into the thing that bugged me the most about this movie, and that is the dismantling of the Predator mythology that I thought was pretty well built upon in the second and third movie from the first one. I thought that was very organic and worked really well. This movie rewrites everything. The whole purpose of the Predator, what it's doing, it rewrites the whole thing and makes you rethink the whole franchise in a negative light. It's the same thing the Star Wars prequels did and the Lord of the Rings prequels did, and I just hate when installments in a franchise do that. So we find out in this movie that the Predators, the trophy hunters from the rest of the franchise, they're just collecting these skulls. They're like the rich jerks that sit around and they're just like, I'm gonna go shoot a giraffe and mount it above my mantelpiece, and everyone know how cool I am. They're like those guys of the galaxy, and it was kind of their charm. They're a little different from other aliens, because that was kind of their MO. In this movie, you find out they haven't been taking the skulls for trophies. They've been taking the skulls of Earth's best fighters because they're extracting the DNA from the spinal column and creating hybrids of their own to enhance their own species, to make super hybrids, which is where the big dumb Hulk one comes in. And not only that, but the reason they're coming more frequently in the last few years or few decades is because, of course, climate change is destroying the Earth, and they gotta get all the great fighting DNA before the humans die out. But not only that, once we do die out, they're gonna move in, take over Earth, and that's ultimately their grand scheme that we're just now finding out. Which, of course, makes the Predator franchise like any other of the hundreds of alien movies where the aliens' goal is to eradicate the human race and move into Earth and take it over. So now the Predators franchise had this little niche where no other aliens are doing what these guys are doing in their movies, just hunting for sport. That's kind of cool. It's like their own little thing. But no, now they're like any other alien race in fiction cinema where they're just gonna take over Earth. How exciting! And of course, one of the negatives from the third Predator movie I mentioned rears its head again in this one. The classic Predator makes an appearance. It's badass. And then he gets obliterated by the more superior Predator species. This giant abomination of a predator that's a hybrid of a million different creatures' DNA. And it pummels the fan in me a little bit. I just want to see the classic one. And I know that's kind of antiquated thinking because franchises are supposed to expand and introduce new concepts and stuff. But I think you expand and do other things besides tinker and give us new, better versions of the thing we come to see and that we love from the other movies. And this new Predator just is so uninteresting. Of course, he's a hybrid of all the best creatures in the galaxy, or the universe, as they mention. So he's just unstoppable until he's not, until the script says he's not unstoppable. Bullets, everything's bouncing off this guy. But then some guy jumps on him and just stabs the crap out of him in the chest. And it's like, oh, well, I guess he's not so impervious. And then another 10 minutes go by of them laying into him with all sorts of guns. Bouncing off of him doesn't have any effect. Until it does. Until one of our main character goes up and shoots him in the head a bunch and his head explodes after watching bullets bounce off of it for 90 minutes. It's just lazy and super uninteresting turn of events or whatever. Let's talk about the characters, because the characters have been one of my favorite parts of all of the Predator movies, because they're always a little bit different. They're always unique personalities and genuine characters that you care about and want to see succeed. In this movie, you don't have characters. You got cartoons. You got people with quirks, not really characters. You got the guy with Tourette's. You got the Bible guy. You got the joke guy. It's every little cliche spot is filled. The main character's kid has Asperger's because the kid always has to have some sort of hindrance. It's boring, cliched, and it doesn't get you emotionally involved at all. And it's too bad because one of the other million problems I had with the movie is that it's kind of boring. You spend a lot of times with these characters that you don't care about for the first time in the Predator franchise, at least in my opinion. You don't care about them, but you spend so much time with them accomplishing nothing. They just joke and joke and joke and joke, and it doesn't make them endearing. You just don't care about them at all. And I found myself multiple times during the movie asking myself, this is a Predator movie, right? Because there's so much of the film dedicated to just these human interactions, and so little involves the Predator at all. And when it does involve the Predator, it's the big hulking one that no fan wants to see. So that was extremely disappointing as well, in a film full of disappointing elements. And in a franchise that in every sequel has introduced new weapons and new ideas that are interesting, this film, one of the things they put into it was Predator dogs, which I seem to recall them having in the third movie on their own little home planet game preserve thing. They were really cool. They had horns jutting out in every direction. They're big, intimidating. They had those. And in this movie, they have Predator dogs, but instead of the cool ones from the last movie, they're the most stock, big dumb dogs creature design that you can imagine. And then they just put some short dreadlocks on them so you weren't confused about whether or not they were Predator dogs, which is just stupid creative thinking to me. Like, the dogs we have in our homes, they don't look like short little four-legged humans. They're dogs. So it's just lazy to me that they're like, well, what's a Predator dog look like? Well, it's a dog, and then it has dreadlocks. Like a kindergartner wrote this idea into the movie. It's just face-palming moment after a face-palming moment. Now, the cherry on top of this crap heap comes in the final few seconds of the movie, which, if the moment happened earlier in the movie, I really might have walked out because of how stupid it is. So the whole movie, they tease this thing that's on the Predator ship that crashed. They tease this compartment that's containing something that we find out the Predator, the classic Predator, had wanted to give to us. And it was a gift of some sort. And in the final moments of the movie, we find out what it is. They open the pod, and it's something that the Predator calls a Predator killer. It's supposed to help us fight the Predators that are going to come take over Earth now. So how funny this movie was, or tried to be, I was expecting something like there to be an alien in the pod. That would have been a cool little tie-in that I'm sure a lot of people would have hated. Or maybe even like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's the Predator killer. Maybe he sits up in the pod. That would have been hilarious. Instead, what comes out is this gauntlet that once it gets on someone's hand, it puts a giant Predator suit over them with like a million shoulder-mounted guns and blades and lasers going everywhere. And what is that doing in a Predator movie? It was so stupid. And because Shane Black wrote and directed Iron Man 3, my first thought was this an Iron Man 4 bid the whole time? Because it looks just like it. And it's just something I never thought I would see in a franchise that's established itself with a certain formula, a certain tone, and then you have the Predator killer Iron Man suit. Just, it's so frustrating. And that's the real kicker for me, folks, is that all of this was made and released in theaters, and the guy responsible is Shane Black. The man was in the original Predator. He's a fantastic writer-director whose films I've mostly liked a lot. You'd think he would have a finger on the pulse of this franchise, and he just craps the bed so hard, in my opinion. It was extremely disappointing. The first comedy in the franchise completely rewrites the mythology. I hate this new trend that they executed in The Last Jedi last December, where filmmakers feel the need to, just because a thing is established and familiar and loved, they just feel the need to tinker with it so much that they basically throw everything else out the window that's came before it and set this new thing and said, here's the new thing. Forget about the old stuff. It's no good. It's out of date. I hate this mindset that just because the fans love something, that they don't know what they want until they get it, essentially. So let's give them some crazy out of left field spin on an established property. I hate it so much. Okay, rant over with. I hated it. So it's gonna be like a 20%. I don't know. I'm trying to also put my head in a place of someone who's not a fan like I am, who just goes to the theater to see the new movie that's out. And I think you can have fun with it if you're not a fan like me. I know I'm probably taking it too seriously, but I don't know. Can you blame me? I love the franchise. I just rewatched it right before this movie, and just extremely disappointed. And that's all I got to say about it. So I'll talk to y'all next time when hopefully I have a better experience to talk about. Goodbye.